Would it even felt like they're in? It's such a pleasure to be back here. Starting the week with a traditional music. Also recognizes the contribution made by Fatu Deflo, a legendary traditional singer. A woman who has made so much impact in terms of strengthening the Liberia's culture. Welcome to the program. The most informative program, the issue-based program is Focal Point. The program where we analyze the issue based our analysis and facts. It's actually good to be back here. After the weekend. Thanks to everybody who graced the occasion, commemorating the contributions of women. Thank you. All right. So let's keep the ball rolling. There are lots of things to talk about in our country. So many things happening in our country. Last week, uh, there were lots of things that happened last week. Last week, uh, the Minister of Information, Culture, and Tourism, Jamil Matthew Pierre, was officially inducted into office. There was a turn over ceremony and other things to talk about. Well, predominantly the issues about the World and Economic Crime Code was one of the most important discussions, and that discussion has since extended over to this week. There are other people. There are other people who think very, very differently regarding the call for the establishment of the War and Economic Crime Court in Liberia. It's actually important for us to give our opinion regarding the call for the War and Economic Crime Court. It is actually important that we be able to examine the process, leading towards the establishment of the War and Economic Crime Court. The War and Economic Crime Court is one of the most important decisions that needs to be carefully looked at. Yeah, it needs to actually be carefully looked at. This is not something that we want to probably score a political point in. This is something that we need to, this administration headed by President Joseph Nima Bwaka needs to actually track with caution because it borders on the issues about security, it borders on the issues about national reconciliation, it borders on fundamentally the issues about ending the culture of impunity in Liberia. Liberia, we have this culture of impunity. I know where when people have committed a particular crime, and we just have that kind of way of just compromising every other thing. So the 14 years of civil conflict in Liberia, other Liberians believe this matter should not be treated like other matters in Liberia. Some of them want that the national government should definitely give their approval regarding the establishment of the War and Economic Crime Court. So there are two distinct courts. There are two distinct courts. One talks about adjudicating war perpetrators, those who committed violence during the 14 years of brutal civil war, which is estimated to engulf the life of over 250,000 Liberians, displacing half of a million of the Liberian population as refugee. Bulk of the people who today reside in the Bujumbura camp, probably due to some opportunities and the encounter while they were residing in the Bujumbura camp, was as a result of the 14 years of civil war, over a decade plus. You understand? You're just fighting, and because of the war does not have any substantial impact. Whether they were fighting at the time, But for me, I look at this war issue to be something like people wanting to take seize of political power, and some of them believe that the only way to take hold of political power in this country was to inflame the situations, to they have mesmerized the minds of Liberian people at the time. And once you get the Liberian people with you, then you will definitely do whatever you want to do. So for me, this issues of the war and economic crime code is something that we should be very, very particular about. Particular in the sense that it is about time that we need to see the call for the establishment of war and economic crime code as not a call that is targeting a particular individual or group of people. It shouldn't be a call that is intended to target a specific person, even though we understand that there are people, whenever we talk about the issues about the war and economic crime code, a particular perpetrator who has been outlined in the TRC report feels that he is targeted. So this is not the issues about whether we want to appease a particular person, but it is about time that we need to inspire the issues about national reconciliation. And the fundamental way of doing that is to establish the war and economic crime code. if you read, even though the Truth Reconciliation Commission's report, based upon their investigation from one layer to another, it talks about the issues about war and economic crime code. We need to actually prioritize that. It talks about the establishment of an extra tribunal to try those who have committed heinous crimes in Liberia. This is not the issues about targeting a particular group of people, because I know there are other people who want to exploit this particular motive, who want to exploit this particular move for their selfish political gain. But I want every Liberian to see this process as a process that is intended to encourage the issues about national reconciliations. So if you cannot end the culture of impunity in this country, obviously people will still see Liberia as a grind to reawaken conflicts. You know, the reason why so far is so good, interestingly, there are other people I have spoken to who understand the issues very well, and they have a very different view regarding the call for the establishment of the War and Economic Crime Court. Some of them, majority of them I have spoken to, express their firm support for the establishment of the court, while other people have a different view about the establishment of War and Economic Crime Court. But on the overall, should we ignore the establishment of the War and Economic Crime Court? I'm not the one going to tell you, but I believe that the War and Economic Crime Court is very, very essential. I believe that the War and Economic Crime Court is very paramount toward nurturing our democracy. If we want to take this democracy to another level, we should embrace, we should inspire every other process associated with the call for the establishment of War and Economic Crime Court. This process should be very impartial, void of politics, because it has long been overdue that those recommendations as enshrined within the TRC report has not been fully implemented. And if you actually do a background investigation as to why the process has not been fully adhered to, it tied on the issues of a political will. A particular president will impress the Liberian people that if you elect me, I will work towards ensuring that those recommendations as enshrined within the TRC report are adhered to. But by the time the president is elected, taking into consideration the process that led them to become elected, they will automatically ignore the recommendations of the TRC report. It happened in the case of President George Manneh Weah. It happened in the case of former President George Manneh Weah. George Weah brazenly chose to ignore the recommendations when many Liberians saw George Weah as a man who was best suited to amplify the call for the establishment of the War and Economic Crime Court. At some stages of the elections that brought George Weah to power in 2017, George Weah had to collaborate with a warlord, Prince Johnson. Warlord turned Senator Prince Johnson. So because he collaborated with Prince Johnson, He never wanted to hurt Senator Prince Johnson. He chose not to hurt Senator Prince Johnson. So every other discussions at the time under George Weah about the War and Economic Crime Court was done carelessly, was never been prioritized. That, in my mind, contributed to the way in which Liberians voted against President Weah. That could be a justification upon which people decided to turn against George Weah. Everybody saw George Weah as a saint. Everybody saw George Weah as a man who could better amplify the call for the establishment of the War and Economic Tribunal in this country, owing to the fact that George Weah played a very pivotal role in bringing peace to Liberia. But when George Weah became the president of Liberia in 2018, for reasons best known to himself, to a larger extent, George Weah chose not to hurt Prince Johnson because Prince Johnson was very instrumental in delivering Nima County to him. So it was a win-win situation. And Prince Johnson, if you look at the TRC report, it is not only Prince Johnson, because you have the likes of Yahya Nimlin and several other persons, William Dwo. Those are the people who believe that when the War and Economic Crime Court is established in Liberia, they will definitely face injustice. So every other thing you see them doing, it is intended to what? To intimidate the Liberian people that if you establish the court, there will be civil unrest in this country. We cannot keep having a set of people in this country who will consistently be threatening the peace of our country. It is about time that we Liberians need to boldly say, Prince Johnson, enough is enough. We are sick and tired of hearing you making some grave threat about our country. But for each time when you hear the introduction of the War and Economic Crime Court debate, then Prince Johnson rather he will open his threat box. This is not how we need to proceed as a country. If you ask Limbadians, the second largest settlement in terms of our population, some Liberians, some Limbadians will definitely tell you that they support the establishment of the War and Economic Crime Court. Like I was reading one of the local daily the other day, there are Liberians who definitely support the War and Economic Crime Court. They have a very contrary view to what Prince Johnson had. So when I listen to some people who are trying to explore this particular debate, because Prince Johnson and George Weah were not cool during the 2023, the just ended elections, then I become very disappointed. You cannot have a person who participated in the war, who perpetrated most of the violence that have been outlined in the TRC report, then you have him still making threats around here, threatening the peace and stability of our country, Nigeria. Then you want us to remain calm about it. This is not how we should be proceeding. Let Liberians get to realize that the call for the establishment of the War and Economic Crime Court, it is not intended to target a few group of people. This is a national reconciliation endeavor. It should be seen as a national reconciliation endeavor. And the best way to reconcile Liberians is to end the culture of impunity. Let those who participated in the war process, those who took part, especially the likes of Prince Johnson and other people, should be displaying a very high level of cooperativeness and a level of remorse. For too long, those important recommendations in the TRC report have been laid down with absolutely no implementation. Now that first of its kind, you have a very significant number of people, lawmakers, who have affirmed their signatories to this particular resolutions, which is tailored around the full implementation of the TRC's recommendation, thereby setting up the court in Liberia. Initially, one of the controversies we were actually hearing has to do with the fact that, they said the court was going to be established in Ghana. But the woman who came, the U.S. diplomat who came to Liberia, has been able to provide clarity that under no conditions, even the United States of America, who has made a commitment of providing all of the technical and financial assistance, has not had any discussions surrounding the court being established in Ghana. If America is supporting this process, going extra mile, when the likes of President Weah said Liberia has more issues to handle rather than giving more attention to the call for giving more attention to the establishment of the World Economic Crime Court, because the country does not have the financial potential to undertake that particular project. What did the US say? The US said, forgo these issues about the government does not have the money. We will definitely provide the money. We will provide the technical assistance. So we should be very elated. We should be very excited that the US is now trying to help us in the process. Let the court be established. Let the court be established. So let's move over to another thing. Let's move to another talking point. So a few days ago, the president of Liberia, His Excellency President Joseph Jomaah Boakai, made a working visit to Ivory Coast. And from all indications, the essence of the president's visit to Ivory Coast was aimed at having fruitful discussions with the Ivorian government and that of the management of the TCLSG. Liberia has since entered partnership or has forged a partnership for Ivory Coast to definitely be helping us in distributions to increase our power supply. But there has still been an issue Sometimes the agreement that was signed, that was entered into in order to keep the partnership going. Liberia has since been very, to a lot, to some extent, Liberia has been very delinquent in terms of meeting up with their obligations. So there are outstanding issues. But before we talk about that, let's go over to there is a story in the Front Page Africa newspaper. Uh, uh, President Boubacar affirms support for CLSG project in May. Power shift talks, stresses commitment to tackle power outages. So this issues about power outages has been one of the most talked about issues in this country, especially when we are in the course of the drought season. That is when people normally experience a very high level of power outages. That is when the management of LEC decide to do power ration. That is to say, they preserve, they will have to abstain a particular community or a particular area for probably maybe 2 days, 3 days, and a particular settlement will not receive current because they have to distribute, and all of those things. So there has been a whole lot of noise about the poor performance of LEC. So the president thought that it was prudent that he have some discussions with the CLSG people, the management of the CLSG. So by doing that, the diplomacy that when you want to go to another country, especially talking about issues that has to do with the affairs of other country, and you have to get the president of that country involved. And also on this particular photo, I am seeing the Ivorian president Alassane Ouattara and the president of Liberia. I see them doing a handshake. But here is a President Boubacar has a firm support to CLSG project and made power shift talks, stresses commitment to tackle power outages. Liberia is going through a recurrent energy crisis due to the shortfall in the delivery of stable electricity to the public. And it appears that President Joseph Dima Boubacar is keen to address the challenge. This was evidenced during his recent high-level working visit to Abidjan, La Côte d'Ivoire. During his engagement with host President Alassane Ouattara on Thursday, March 7, 2024, the Liberian leader stressed that the strategic priority of his government is to ensure increased access and the expansion of stable electricity to the Liberian people. The president visit to Cote d'Ivoire comes amid controversies surrounding the resurfacing of a proposal which drew strong condemnation on the Ouattara-led government from international stakeholders, investing millions in the quest for stable electricity for Liberia. Front Page Africa reported last week that the Turkish Power Shift Group recently submitted a proposal prevailing on the Boubacar's administration to have the ship brought to Liberia in hope of easing the power need for millions of Liberians craving for electricity. A key concern raised during the Riyadh administration when the power issue emerged is that there are many hidden costs attached, and the LEC will, and under the contract term, have to pay all the power produced while consumed or not. At 50% current tariff rate, the actual cost will be double if 16 cents are only a base cost. One source told Front Page Africa, at the moment, the cost per power at my conflict is 6 cents. So that there is actually a debate surrounding the government. The government actually wants to actually work all modalities, whether from behind the scene, whether through dialogues, for also just for the government to actually deal with. But it's actually a very tedious situation. It's actually a very tedious task to do. The government is trying to look for the best alternative that could definitely, alleviate this whole issues about power outages in this country. But there is one thing we need to actually take into consideration. If we want to, if we want to deal with these issues about having a stabilized electricity in Liberia, because this has been a perennial issue. This has been a long-lasting issue. Liberians who are actually benefiting from the electricity should be willing to actually shoulder the responsibility of paying their bills, their electricity bill. Sometimes I see a lot of people make references to Ghana. Oh, when you go to Ghana and the people then get stable current. When you go to Nigeria, the people have stable electricity. If you go to Africa, the people have stable electricity. Some of them who have, and some Liberians who are privileged. Like the other day, my friend, Mohamed Vanikan was sharing his story. Upon his recent visit, he made some part of year before, some part of last year. I think it was last year or year before last. He went to Ghana. He started to give his own experience about some of the realities he saw and how those realities would definitely cope with the prevailing situations in Liberia. So, as part of some of his experiences he was sharing, one thing that EMI spoke about the issues about the Ghanaian the Ghanaians actually enjoy the issues about stable electricity. Yeah, everybody will want to enjoy stable electricity, but in the process of enjoying stable electricity, there are other responsibilities that the citizen need to be aware of. We already have a culture in Liberia where the issues about Liberians being obligated, Liberians being able to be able to pay taxes is an issue. Power theft is one serious issue that we all need to discourage. Despite there has been laws on the book, but to what extent are those laws being fully implemented? There are laws on the book to prevent power theft. The issues about crafting law, Liberians are very, very good at crafting laws. If the other day I was listening to a legal expert who was just giving his opinions about the numerous laws that have been crafted in our country, and those laws have not been fully implemented. If we are to be very honest in our opinion, Liberia does have some of the best laws in the country. Some of the best laws among other countries in Africa. But to what extent are we living up to the implementation of those laws? Those are the questions we need to be asking ourselves. We want to have stable electricity. Yes, having stable electricity is very important. But are we willing to shoulder the responsibility that come along with having stable electricity? I understand that sometimes LEC is a problem because sometimes they kind of bureaucratize it. They attach to one obtaining meter needs to actually be local too. Needs to actually be local. Because there are other people who will provide testimonies to you as to how they have made all necessary arrangements to have their meter. Financial wise, they are clear with LEC. But LEC has since been holding fast and delaying to get their meter to them and to do the necessary connection. So at some point in time, you get disappointed. You get disappointed in your community where you live. You see a lot of people involved into power tech. So you too, you start, you say, but I am not the only person. After all, we are all Liberians. So you too, you go to your power tech and you start subscribing to the power tech and the power tech issue. So it's a win-win situation. Why it is true that the Liberian people need to play a very pivotal role. They need to commit themselves to the process of working to ensure that we have a stable current. But at the same time, LEC needs to be very robust. If there are no good policies, let the management or whoever is clothed with the responsibility to do that develop those policies that will provide permanent solution to all of the noise, all of the hula battles surrounding these issues about power. If you listen to some Nigerians regarding the power outages, they feel very disappointed. They feel very disappointed that LEC would that be behaving a Christmas land. It go off the count. After 5 minutes, it will go off. After 5 minutes, again, it will count. So, when people are experiencing these regular power outages on a frequent basis, sometimes they incurred a very grave loss, equipment-wise. Those are the losses they incur. So LEC actually needs to step up. They actually need to step up. You cannot have a repeated situation. Every time you say when LEC during the course of drought season, the McCoffey Hydro at some point in time it will not be able to supply the entire country, so we have to connect. We have to subscribe to the generator issue. Even the generator issue is still an issue. So what progress are you making as an institution? Is it that you want for LEC to be fully privatized? Because those have been the recommendations from other Liberians who have since voiced out their frustration in the way LEC has since been conducted. Sometimes LEC does not even have the financial capacity to bring in meters. You are running a serial mine institution, but you don't have the financial capacity to bring in meter. There are other alternatives. There are other people who have the potential, have the resources. Why don't you forge a partnership with them and tell them, say, if you can bring, you can bring meter, LEC will have a percentage, and you will also have a percentage. You understand? Then you can recommend that particular person that the entire public can go to be part of purchasing meter. You even increase the price of meter It used to at first it used to be $50. You pay the $50, and now it is it has increased to $150 with a very poor performance. With a very, very poor performance. You increase unnecessarily, you just increase the cost of the meter. And your quality, your quality output is very poor. People get very disappointed about the way you are running this whole thing. So the president's move actually is to go and have extra discussions aiming at laying this whole LEC Wahala to rest. It's actually a very good step. If President Joseph Boakai is successful in this particular endeavor he has embarked upon, that could definitely be a legacy project. Even on an early, this LEC, it was still an issue in this country. George Weah, LEC was an issue. Every time you hear that, we are making strides, we have connected this and this and this and that. You know what I'm saying? So we will actually table that particular discussion for another day. And let's go over to sometimes it's good to actually listen to varieties of radio stations in the country. You know, Ellen did a very brilliant job. Former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf did a very brilliant job. President Weah too did a very brilliant job in terms of, guaranteeing the freedom of expression. Now you have a multiplicity of media institutions. Whenever you want, the public now decide which one of the radio stations to listen to, which one of the radio stations to not listen to, and so forth. So every one of the media institutions, whether you are discussing politics, you are not discussing politics, you have a very high, most of your activities you do on the radio is about religion, but maybe it's about politics, it's about entertainment. We are all operating in the communication sector of our country with one mindset that Liberia is our greatest denominator. Liberia remains our greatest denominator. So, but most importantly, the views of Liberians regarding how the president is actually proceeding with his appointment is something that is very important. Even in the cycle of the Unity Party, there are issues within the cycle of the Unity Party. If you actually ask some Unity partisans with regards to how the president is proceeding with the nomination process, they have some issues. Even though some of them will tell you that I will speak to this particular issues. I'm so much disappointed on the pace at which the president is making his nomination. But at times, because of some reason, they will try to be anonymous. They will say, "Don't call my name." But on the overall, we are hearing that certain group of people who have been privileged. The reason I'm using this word privilege is because there are other people. Some people feel that the fight that or the role they play during the campaign process is on the basis upon which the president decided to give them that particular position. That is not it. I want everyone in the government cycle to see that the fact that they were privileged to, to be appointed to a particular position, let them explore that particular privilege in a very positive manner. That particular privilege should be exploited in a very positive manner. Because if you feel that you are not privileged, you feel that probably you played a very pivotal role, you were very instrumental in bringing the president where he is, then I will tell you that the ordinary people who braved the storm, defied the odds, who stood under the sun for hours, do have a reason to complain. They do have a reason to complain. On the overall, we are hearing that some people, the reason why the president is actually proceeding very slowly is because certain group of people want certain group of people to go to a particular ministry. Mr. President, appoint my man to so and so place, and they do this, do this. I believe this should not be the form and manner in which those of you in the cycle of the president who are privileged to be in the cycle of the president should be proceeding. The Constitution is very clear. The president has the authority. He is the only man clothed with the responsibility to make appointment. So no matter how you feel about the president, the Constitution provides that the president is the only person who is clothed with the responsibility to make appointment in government. I am telling you, the president's action may not be favorable to everybody, especially those within the cycle, even to a larger extent among the Liberian people as a whole. Some people believe that the president has made some misplaced appointments or nominees. Those are the people who should not have even been placed at a particular ministry. We all saw the controversies regarding the foreign ministers, Sarah Beslam Nyanti. How there were so many stories regarding her nomination process. So many stories. Some people say she never had the legitimate credential. However, in spite of all of the hula battles surrounding her, what of Sarah never had the legitimate credentials and so forth. Yet still, Sarah now served as the foreign ministers. She has been placed. She was earlier designated and confirmed by the Liberian Senate to spearhead the foreign affairs activity of Liberia. So, if you actually look at Article 56 of the Constitution, it talks about pleasure. That is to say, If the president designates you to a particular position, even though you have to pass through some check and balance that need to be done by the Senate, the Honorable Liberian Senate, it means that the president feels comfortable. The president has a very great confidence. The president has imposed confidence in you to go and serve the country. Who told you that every other thing the president does sometimes it can better be, it can better be up to the decision. That's why the president has so many advisors. And when you are the president of the country, you listen to so many people. You have the educational advisor, you have the political advisor, you have the legal advisor, you have, you have the civil society, advisor, you have your student advisor, to advise you on some of the decisions you need to take regarding the affairs of students in the country. But at times, some of the decisions the president make, those decisions are not in accordance with what people in his cycle have said to him. Sometimes the president say, "Yeah, they on this particular one day, I will just go. I will just go ahead." And this is where those of you who are privileged to be in the cycle, privileged to be in the proximity of the president, you need to give the president, you need to understand the issues. And by understanding the issue, it also takes into consideration the implications from both angles, the positive and that of the negative. Okay, folks, welcome back. We are very sorry for the technical issue. It was a slight break in transmission. Slight. So, as I was saying, we understand that the job of the presidency is actually a very tedious job. Even though during the campaign process, just ended elections process, there were other people who said, "Oh, Joe Walker had the experience, and Joe Walker has the experience, and he has worked in government." But there is two different things. There are other things people never take into account. Working in government is an advantage, but the job of the presidency, the responsibilities that are attached to the presidency, are very, very huge. There are so many responsibilities attached to the presidency. Can you imagine the recent census that was conducted in this country revealed to us that we have over 5 million people living in Liberia. So you are the one as the president of the country displaying direction for everybody. I understand that we understand the issues that the government does not have the opportunity or the government does not have the capacity to provide jobs for everybody in the country, but it is incumbent upon the government to provide the opportunity for everybody to create the avenue. So when there are issues in the country, people look up to the president to make a particular statement. And this is why if the president is about to speak to a particular issue that are concerning to the entire Liberian population, he oftentimes has some backstage consultation before coming up to make a statement. And within that backstage, they would do a cross analysis to examine the positive impact of the situation that he's about to address. And they will also take into account the negative impact. So the job of the presidency is a very huge responsibility. Let the president be very, very careful in the way he proceeds. One of the justifications sometimes in listening to people regarding what the president is being very slow or is moving at a slow pace in terms of making the appointment, perhaps a valid justification should be that the president is trying to be very careful with the kind of people he appoints to position. Mind you, everyone that is appointed in government by the president mirrors that of his manifestos. So if that person or if that particular nominee or official fail, the greater lattice fall back to the president. So this is why the president is sometimes skeptical on who he is appointing. And another issue here is that we all observed the process that brought Joseph Walker to the presidency. Last minute to the time, there were other people who came on board. So the party, in the process of forming the government, they want to be very strategic to have all of the alliance members on board as a means of expressing gratitude to them. You know how they allowed me into the town, most especially the run of election was held. Every single political party was essential. When you wake up one morning, you hear the particular president, the other party, a segment of the party go and endorse the other party, the two competitors in the process. So when you are forming your government, you need to be very careful. You need to be very careful. You need to recognize those people. And it was based upon the recognition that brought the legs of Edward Appleton, Mandela Cooper, and you need them. That brought them to the spotlight. Now Mandela Cooper is the political advisor to the president. Probably everybody expected that she was going to be to an area where she was going to be, she was going to be recognized, maybe serving in one of those ministries and agencies. But perhaps she presented her recommendation to the president, and the president had to act. We saw that with the likes of Emmanuel Gongwe. Emmanuel Gongwe had to relinquish his position. He had to turn over his position to another person in his party. Some people, to a greater extent, has since applauded Emmanuel Gongwe for the step he has taken. Because nobody has ever done that. The president gave you an appointment and say, let my person, I'll turn the position over to somebody in my party. Now and again, the president formed a particular asset restitution recovery committee, and we see Emmanuel Gongwe named there again. The president has an interpretation of why he is doing those things. It is only the president that has the best interpretation. Other people who are close to the president does have an interpretation. But the president is the best man who can interpret his action. So we will table that. We will not have time. We really wanted to expand on these issues about the NPA, but we'll leave that for tomorrow. If we come back, we will definitely look into the NPA controversy regarding the mysterious, the mysterious talking of rights from the National Port Authority. That is very, very disappointing. That is very, very disheartening. It's so good that they have the management headed by Sekou Dukle, Sekou H. Dukle, who is currently the MD, the managing director, and Reverend Luto Tape, and other Liberians, have been able to mandate a full skilled investigations be conducted. So as we speak, the investigation is still ongoing. The findings from those investigations will definitely be released to the public. But it's actually a good thing The port should be one of the areas in Liberia. You can say the port is regarded as a gateway to Liberia economy. Then you do not have those sensitive security equipments at the port. We need to be very serious here. We actually need to be very serious. All right, so let's go. Thank you for watching. We appreciate you.
Hello guys, my name is K. Lyndon Toba. I'm your humble presenter of the program, The Focal Point. As the demand for critical